Buenos dias a todos, welcome back to Punk Right, a new episode right here from Caracas, Venezuela. Today we're taking a walking tour to check out all the fantastic graffiti that we'll find around. Stick around on Punk Right. If you take a look around any urban setting and you pay attention a little bit, you might see what you call vandalism. But there's a fine line between vandalism and graffiti. What makes one acceptable and one not so acceptable? At its core, graffiti is one of the purest ways of democratic expression that you can have in the urban setting. It uses the city as its canvas. For a little background, let's go to our out-of-house expert, Danai Moyano.
Hi everyone, my name is Danai. I did a dissertation on ethnicity as a political claim in Chile. During this research, I used graffiti as primary source. The difference between graffiti and vandalism is the deliberate destruction of or damage to public property. What's important in this definition is the concept of property. It's all about questioning our relationship with public property, to use it as a space for expression. Graffiti does not belong inside a museum. It does not belong inside an institutionalized space. It has to be out there. It has to be illegal.
If you walk around any urban setting, basically you're looking at free canvases over all the walls, and it's just a matter of time before these things evolve into actual street art. This is a great example of some street art in Caracas that is just art for the sake of art. I don't really see any particular message in it other than just the performance of shapes and colors, and it's cool.
There's a whole democratic aspect of graffiti as a form of expression, of democratizing the access to culture in general and to art and to beauty. And the fact that you have graffiti artists that are making their art or writing things in those areas also participates in this sort of beautification of spaces that don't necessarily consider themselves beautiful. Graffiti as a whole can mean so many things. You're gonna have tags linked to hip-hop culture, and which are a signature that is made in an artistic form in a public space. Murals, which are much more elaborate in the ways in which it's going to use symbols and the ways in which it's going to use color to create dialogue with the space that it has been made in. And then you just have simple writing. For instance, there's just people that write stuff on the walls that most of the time that is very linked to social movements. During a protest, for example, people are just going to just write things all over the town, and that's also a form of graffiti. Just little stickers that can also be considered a form of graffiti. And then you have stencils as well. Stencils, so you have a stencil that you're just going to spray paint over. All of this can be called graffiti. What you're going to call street art is when it starts being more elaborate. Most of the time, street artists are going to accept to work within a more legal context.
Oh, that's good. Whew, tough day here in Caracas. Lots of traffic as the gas is back in town, so I'll do my best to not get run over. What you see behind me is some of my favorite graffiti. All of this graffiti is state-sponsored. Right above is the hospital, Salvador Allende, which is a public hospital. Salvador Allende, of course, was a very important public figure for socialism in Latin America. So they've taken over this underneath of the bridge. Oh, here comes a big truck. I'm gonna stop here. Of course, the call for unity and solidarity is apparent in this graffiti. Some beautiful imagery that really grasps the essence of the Venezuelan population. This was part of a larger project years ago called Barrio Adentro. I'll take you up here in just a second to take a look at that. Barrio Adentro, or Barrio Adentro 2, is the second operation to kind of get the pueblo moving. Right behind me you see some great government propaganda that says, Venezuela now is for everybody. Of course, people have some differing opinions. You can see how it's crossed out with their own graffiti that says, well, now it's Cuba's. Not everything is just about imagery. You've got a flat-out message in El Gobierno Bolivariano, which is the socialist government here. They're saying basically that they're making public health for everybody.
Between 2000 and 2010, we started seeing more of an institutionalization of graffiti. Certain politicians noticed the impact and the power that was carried in certain messages. And they noticed that the artists, the graffiti artists, they had actually something to say in certain areas of cities. Political power started going towards the graffiti artists in order to involve them in city politics.
There's some great graffiti here. This is, again, sponsored by the government, the socialist government. It says the Barrio Adentro mission, which is the program that was started under Chavez, grants quality attention to the Venezuelan public. Of course, it's convincing, it's beautiful, it sends a great message. For every message that the government puts out in these days, there's always an anti-message. You can see behind these old graffitis from the government are now being graffitied over. This one says usurpao, which means usurped, which is kind of the general feeling of what the government has done with the democracy here. In many respects, it's really sad what's happened to a lot of the graffiti here in Caracas. Over the past years, just basic maintenance and the ability to pay for paint is really difficult for a lot of people. These types of projects are really getting lost and they're falling in disarray, as you can see in this one right behind me. It was a beautiful scene of a native Venezuelans that's just peeled off, nothing to do about it. I wonder if anyone's ever documented these when they were in pristine condition.
Every continent is going to have its own specificity. And you're going to find things that were born in Latin America that are going to be made in Europe, and things that were born in Asia that are going to be made in North America. Wherever it's born, graffiti has a social dimension. In Latin America, the social dimension of graffiti is not only social, but it's also political, which is not true in other places. It's going to be political in the sense that it's going to portray a political message, but also in the sense that it's going to be used by political movements as an instrument to put certain messages out. Social muralism, which started in Mexico with very well-known artists such as Diego Rivera. The message had to be social. There was something that the artist had to be putting out there. They had a social responsibility, and that's why they were painting on walls.
All around Caracas you see what are called the ojos of Chavez, or the eyes of Chavez. And the eyes of Chavez is a governmental propaganda visual meant to describe how Chavez is always looking over the pueblo, looking over the people. This graffiti artist has taken the liberty to contort that image a little bit and use the irony of the ojos of Chavez for his own message. I, Nicolas, I see disaster. I've been passing this wall for years. I never realized what it said until Denai came to visit us here in Caracas. And the fun thing about graffiti is that once you start paying attention to the world around you, you kind of see the messages that people hide on the walls that are all around. Here we see a love message that runs all the way up the wall. Language and the use of language is a powerful form of expression. Graffiti fills a space that sometimes language can't really do in terms of stylistic devices like irony. You can't do anything better than just a simple image. If you pay attention to some of the urban settings around you, you'd be surprised at the artistic expression, the creativity that goes into graffiti making. And that concludes our walking tour of Caracas, Venezuela. If you enjoyed today's content, feel free to subscribe right here, or you can leave a comment in the comment section below. Until then, just keep writing, punk write, or make some graffiti.